I always thought the worst sound in the world was a slamming door. But on the night everything fell apart, I learned it was something else, my father screaming my name like it was an insult. Ethan, his voice tore through the house, sharp and furious, making even the old wooden floors tremble. I stepped into the kitchen, still wiping engine grease from my hands after a late shift at the auto shop. My father was already red-faced, pacing back and forth, waving a stack of overdue bills like a weapon. My mother stood near the sink, trying to keep her breathing steady. My sister and brother sat at the table, pretending to scroll their phones but watching every second. "You're going to ruin this family," he snarled before I even opened my mouth. I asked for one thing, one loan, one. I forced my voice to stay calm. "Dad, I told you, I can't give you any money right now." It was the truth. As far as he knew, to him, I was the struggling 24-year-old who worked 2 jobs just to get by. And in a way, I was. I had lived simply, quietly, blending into normal life so no one in my family would question anything. He slammed his fist on the table. "Can't or won't, I said, softer this time. "I'm not responsible for fixing another one of your business mistakes." The room froze. He stared at me as if I had slapped him. My sister's eyes went wide. My little brother lifted his head, unsure whether to run or stay. "You ungrateful brat," my father hissed. "Everything I've done for you. You yelled at me. You belittled me. You told me I'd never be anything." I shot back, the dam finally breaking. "That's not helping me. That's not raising me. What did you say?" He barked, stepping closer. My mother whispered, "Mark, stop." But he didn't hear her. He never heard her. "You think you're better than me?" He growled, "No." I whispered, "Just tired." His face twisted, and in that second, something inside him snapped, or maybe it had been broken my whole life. "Get out," he said. I blinked. "What?" His roar shook the cabinets. "Get out and stay out." My mother gasped. My sister stood up suddenly, knocking over her chair. But the damage had already been done. He wasn't angry, he was cruel. And he meant every word. "Dad," my brother tried to say. Not another word. My father's arm shot out, pointing at the front door like it was the gates of hell. "He wants to be on his own. Fine. Let him see how far he gets without me." But he never helped me, not once. Still, hearing him say it, hearing how easily he cut me out, felt like someone pressing a knife against my ribs. I swallowed hard, grabbed my duffel bag from behind the couch, and slung it over my shoulder. I had packed it 2 days earlier, not because I wanted to leave, but because I knew someday I'd have to. My father would give me no choice. As I walked to the door, no one moved. My mother's hand rose halfway, as if she wanted to reach for me but was too scared. My sister's eyes glistened, but she didn't speak. My brother's lips trembled in silent apology. I turned the doorknob. "You're making a mistake throwing me out," I said, my voice barely steady. "One day you'll understand that." He scoffed. "You won't even last a day." The door clicked shut behind me, sealing the moment forever. In the cold night, with my breath fogging in the air, I felt my heart break, but beneath the pain, something else stirred. A promise, a truth. He had no idea who I really was, or where I was going tomorrow. And it would be the last time he ever underestimated me. The cheap motel room smelled like bleach and loneliness, and the blank, it was so thin, it barely warmed me. But it was still quieter, gentler than the house I had left behind. I lay on the stiff mattress, staring at the cracked ceiling, letting the silence settle inside me. I replayed my father's words over and over. "Get out and stay out." He said it like throwing me away cost him nothing. Maybe it didn't. Maybe I had only ever been a burden to him, an inconvenience he tolerated until I dared to stand up for myself. By 3 a.m., I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was just done begging for love, done shrinking myself so he wouldn't explode, done pretending I needed him. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, my lawyer's number flashing on the screen. I stared at it for a few seconds, breathing in the hollow air before finally answering. "Ethan," he said, his voice low and steady. "Are you all right?" I sat up, my hands trembling, though I wasn't sure if it was from cold or from the weight of everything. "Yeah, I guess it's time." "You're absolutely sure?" he asked. "Once we move forward, everything changes." I looked at my duffel bag, the only thing I carried out of that house. Inside it were clothes that didn't matter, a toothbrush, a few old photos, nothing that defined me. What defined me was the work I had done when they thought I was wasting my life, the nights I spent coding until dawn in my tiny apartment above the auto shop. The wellness app no one believed would work, until it exploded across social media and quietly became a global phenomenon. The $42 million acquisition deal made under an anonymous shell corporation, because I didn't want my family to know. Because I knew exactly what they would have done with the information. "I'm sure." I finally said, "Let's do it." "All right, the Malibu property is officially prepared for move-in. You'll have access today. I'll send the security team to pick you up at any location you choose." For a long moment, I didn't speak. Hearing it out loud made it real. A $30 million cliffside mansion. Mine, not a dream, not a fantasy. Not a secret to hide anymore. "Thank you," I whispered. After the call ended, I sat there in the dark, letting the truth wash over me. My father threw me out like trash, but I was walking into a life people would kill to have. By the time sunrise crept through the thin curtains, I had showered, dressed, and stepped outside into the chilly morning air. A black SUV waited by the curb, windows tinted, engine humming softly. The driver stepped out. "Mr. Hale." No one had ever said my name with respect like that. I nodded. "That's me." He opened the door and I got in, sinking into leather seats softer than anything my childhood home ever held. As we pulled onto the highway, I watched the landscape shift from rundown motels and gas stations to sleek homes and sparkling ocean views. Every mile we drove felt like shedding another layer of pain. "You'll love the house," the driver said, eyes on the road. "It's the best property we've ever secured for a client." I stared out the window, unable to speak. The Pacific glimmered on my right, waves catching the sun like mirrors of liquid silver. For years, I hid my success because I feared what my family would do if they knew. I feared being used, drained, taken advantage of. But now they had thrown me out for refusing to give them money I no longer needed. The SUV slowed as we approached the gated entrance of a secluded road. The sea breeze drifted in through the air vents, carrying the scent of salt and freedom. "Welcome home," the driver said as the gates opened. And for the first time in my life, the word home didn't hurt. The first night in my Malibu mansion felt unreal, like I'd stepped into someone else's life. The walls were tall and white, the floors smooth and cool beneath my feet, and the entire back of the house opened into a wall of glass overlooking the endless Pacific. When the sun set, the sky melted into pink and gold, as if the universe were painting me an apology for everything I had endured. I stood on the balcony long after the stars appeared, letting the sound of the waves fill the spaces inside me that had once held fear. The ocean didn't yell, it didn't demand, it didn't judge, it could roar but never to hurt me. For the first time in years, I slept without flinching at shadows or raised voices. No slamming doors, no footsteps that meant trouble, no cold silence at the dinner table, just the rhythm of the tide. In the morning, sunlight poured into the living room through the massive glass panes. The place still felt too beautiful, too expensive, too clean to belong to someone like me. I walked barefoot across the warm wood floors, touching surfaces just to remind myself they were real. I brewed coffee in a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a magazine, marble counters, chrome fixtures, appliances I barely knew how to use. Everything gleamed. Everything smelled like new beginnings, but peace can be startling when you've never known it. I wandered from room to room as if I were searching for something. Maybe the ghost of who I used to be, maybe the voice of the boy who thought he had to earn love. I didn't find him anywhere. Later that afternoon, while I was standing outside by the infinity pool, watching the waves crash against the cliffs below, my phone buzzed. A message from my lawyer: "Your father's business is collapsing. They're in serious debt." I froze. A part of me expected to feel satisfaction, revenge, even. After all, he had thrown me out like I was nothing. But instead, I felt something else. I felt tired, tired of caring, tired of hurting, tired of him having power over my emotions. I shoved the phone into my pocket and tried to focus on the ocean again. But the next day and the day after that, the message echoed in my mind like a stubborn ghost. My father was losing everything, and he didn't even know I had gained more than he ever imagined. On the fourth morning, while I was taking a walk along the private pathway leading down to the beach, my head of security approached me. "Sir," he said, "there's someone at the gate asking for you." Who? He hesitated. "Your father." The world didn't freeze, it slowed. Like time itself was bracing for impact, my chest tightened as I walked back up the path toward the front of the property. Through the trees, the massive iron gates came into view, and behind them stood a man I barely recognized. My father, he looked smaller, older, exhausted, like life had taken bites out of him. As I got closer, he straightened, gripping the bars with shaking hands. "Ethan," he said, voice rough, "please let me talk to you." I froze several feet away. My heart thudded painfully, all the old wounds reopening, all the memories rushing forward, every insult, every dismissal, every moment he made me feel worthless. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice steady even though my hands were not. "I need help," he said. "The business, the house, everything's falling apart." Of course, not "I'm sorry," not "I was wrong," not "I miss you." "Help, always help. You threw me out." I reminded him quietly, his jaw tensed. "I didn't mean." "Yes," I cut in. "You did." Behind him, a second figure stepped closer. My mother. Her eyes were red, her face pale, her hands clasped as if holding herself together. "Ethan, sweetheart," she whispered. Something inside me cracked, not like breaking glass, but like ice thawing after too long in the dark. I took a slow breath, staring at the two people who had shaped so much of my life. One with love too soft to protect me, the other with anger sharp enough to scar. "I'm not the same person you threw out," I said finally, "and this isn't the same home you used to control." The ocean wind swept around us, carrying away the words but leaving behind the truth. The next moments would decide everything. My father's face hardened when I didn't run to open the gate. He wasn't used to waiting, or being ignored, or facing a version of me he no longer had power over. My mother looked between us, her eyes begging for peace neither of us knew how to create. "Ethan," she said softly, fingers curled around the bars, "we didn't come here to fight." I swallowed, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Then why are you here?" My father stepped forward before she could answer. "Because you're our son," he snapped, "and sons don't turn their backs on family." I almost laughed. Almost, but pain doesn't always come out as humor. It comes out as clarity. "I didn't turn my back," I said. "You threw me out." His jaw clenched. I was angry. "You're always angry." The wind blew between us, cool and salty, and for a moment the only sound was the crash of waves behind my mansion. My father's eyes flicked past me, taking in the sprawling white walls, the towering glass windows, the manicured landscape. "How did you afford all this?" he asked, bitterness coating every word. "Who bought it for you?" "I did." he scoffed. Don't lie to me. You work at an auto shop? I sold something. I said simply, "What, your soul?" My mother gasped. Mark, but his words didn't sting, not anymore. The boy who would have crumbled under them no longer existed. I inhaled slowly. I sold the wellness app I created 2 years ago for $42 million. The silence that followed was almost holy. My father's mouth fell open. My mother covered her lips with shaking hands. My sister, I later learned, had known I was smart, but not like this. Not millionaire smart, not Malibu mansion smart. He whispered, you made that, yes. He stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time, realizing all the years he spent calling me a failure meant nothing. I wasn't a failure. I was just invisible to him. My father's voice trembled when he spoke again. I need help. The business is gone. The house, the bills. There it was. The real reason he came, not love, not regret, need, please, he added, and for a moment he almost sounded human. I'm your father. I held his gaze, and I was your son. He flinched the way people do when they're struck by the truth. I never asked you for anything. I continued, not money, not praise, not even kindness, but when I finally said no to you, just once, you threw me away. That's not, it is, I said. It always has been. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Ethan, can we come in, just to talk? I stepped closer, placing my hand over hers on the gate. I'll help you, I whispered, but not him. She nodded slowly, not agreeing, but understanding. She knew better than anyone what he was capable of. What he wasn't. My father stared at me, shock giving way to anger. So this is your revenge? No, I said. This is my boundary. He looked like he wanted to shout again, but for once he swallowed the words. Maybe he sensed that yelling wouldn't fix what he broke. Maybe he finally saw how far I had climbed without him. I rebuilt my life, I said gently. You don't get to break it again. My mother reached through the gate and squeezed my hand. Thank you, she whispered, her voice fragile, for still having a heart. Always for you, I murmured. I turned to the security guard, let her in. He nodded, and him, the guard asked. I looked back at my father, this proud, stubborn man who had spent his whole life trying to be bigger by making me smaller. Not today, I said softly, not anymore. The gate slid open for only one of them. My mother crossed the threshold with trembling steps. My father stayed behind, staring through the iron bars as the gates closed between us with a final, echoing click. It wasn't cruelty. It wasn't revenge. It was freedom. For the first time, I walked back toward my mansion, not as a boy seeking approval, but as a man who chose his own future.